here we go.
I know how you're doing. We just had a board meeting, so we've been together for a lot of the day.
We've been spending the whole day together.
We did a fire drill today. Walked down 19 flights of steps.
Yes, we got our steps in. We are safe now if there's a fire.
I got to say, like, as I was walking down those stairs, I was like, man, if there's a real fire, I think we're totally screwed.
Yes.
That was not that exciting.
No, I mean, it's not, there's like not the ability to get this number of people out quickly enough. And in real bad situations, we have seen people jumping out of windows and trying to run through the fire and all kinds of bad stuff. It's just not, this building is not designed for an actual fire.
Yeah. I was not thinking about that at any point before that. And now every day I come to work, I'll be thinking about that. So
that's one of those things you can't control. If there's a fire or a tornado, we're just dead.
You also can't unsee it once you've seen it. Like you will see buildings totally differently. My buddy Adam, who's the fire chief of Philadelphia. I mean, the number of things that he sees, he's looking at something and he just sees all of the issues, the potential issues, and like he lives it. It's his life.
Yeah, you look at a healthcare startup and you see all of this stuff.
Right.
He looks at a building. He's like, that's not right. That's not right. That's
exactly.
Right. That's dangerous.
He's like, where's the fire extinguisher? What is wrong with these people? And he's right. He's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got a great show to cover, and that is no exaggeration.
A lot going on this week.
A lot going on. So let's jump in.
Election day. It was election day yesterday.
It was historic election day because the state of Ohio. I mean, it was one of those interesting pre-presidential election day years, and
there weren't that many big things going on. And
but it's an indicator.
Ohio got a lot of attention because of that. It's
an indicator. It kind of sets the stage for some things. We had the Kentucky governor's race, which I think was interesting, probably mostly because of Mitch McConnell, right?
Well, I think Kentucky's a pretty good bellwether. Like the governorship has been indicative of presidential races for many years.
Yeah. So that was interesting. It ended up going to the Democrats. But this Ohio referendum adding abortion rights to the state constitution, I mean, that in a red state, that is historic.
Yeah. I think the Supreme Court pushed this issue to the states to deal with. And I take it as a healthy sign that it went to a vote and the citizens of Ohio voted, and they want the right to choose whether each woman can choose to have an abortion or not in the state constitution. That was the whole point of the Supreme Court ruling, that this wasn't mandated from the feds. And so, I mean, I happen to be pro-choice myself, and so maybe I'd feel differently if I was really seriously pro-life. But I think the result is what was called for in the Supreme Court. It took a long time, but now the other thing it signals to me is that a lot of the classic Democratic messages, abortion being the one we're talking about right now, have a lot of support. Like in a red state like Ohio, it won by a decent amount. Wasn't that super close. And yet Biden doesn't have much support. Mm-hmm. And so you have this dynamic where the themes of the Democratic Party have, I think, decent support, but the head of the party does not have a lot of support. And yet the party will not allow for really, there's been a couple challenges, but no real significant challenges, which I think is a mistake. I don't know why that makes sense if you were sort of thinking about the Democratic Party in a 10, 20-year trajectory, but they're apparently not.
I don't even pretend to be a political strategist, so I will refrain from offering too much theory here.
Yeah, and that analysis may not be correct. I mean, I don't know that I'm not an expert at all.
Yeah, you may be correct. It's just I can't make sense of it. I mean, what I can say is this one issue of abortion is bucking trends in terms of it really being sticky and really resulting in some historic state level votes in ways that I think the Republican Party didn't fully anticipate. This being a response to the SCOTUS decision. So it will be interesting, and obviously it is a healthcare issue, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we will see what happens for the health systems in those particular states, what happens for the providers in those particular states. But it's a healthcare issue. It's a ability to perform a procedure or not, and the threat of criminal punishment if you do perform that procedure. And we haven't seen enough evidence that it will make certain states more provider friendly, or that certain health systems will, thrive more. But it's something to at least watch. It's something to at least watch, because as the country becomes more of this patchwork quilt of some states, and you can't even really split it by red trifecta, blue trifecta anymore, right? I mean,
because Ohio broke the trend.
Correct. Yeah. So
which probably is healthy, really. But there's going to be a patchwork of different laws, different constitutions in different states, and long-term view, that's probably a good way to get to a reasonable answer, but it's going to be really painful, like getting there. There's going to be states where the rules are very different than 30 miles away.
And again, making it hard for organizations like HHS or for multi-state, large regional, super regional health systems to have sort of standard practices. It's you have to operate very differently from state to state. They already have to, but I mean, on a matter like abortion, I mean, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. So something to continue to watch. Interesting election day. Following along on the banking story, Signature Bank, which has long failed.
Yeah, it's one of the three or four
the initial
failed.
three. The
In
initial three that
March.
failed. That's right. They are finally getting ready to sell their commercial real estate portfolio, and it's going to be sold at a pretty massive discount, 15 to 40% lower than the original face value. And Vic, you found this story and brought up the point that this really does begin the beginning of the markdowns, and particularly in an important market like New York.
Yeah, I think they have significant number of assets in New York City, both commercial real estate, office buildings, and multifamily rental properties. And it's going to set a new market price. Like, it's enough volume of buildings that will trade that it's going to set a new bar that then every other owner of buildings is going to have to reconcile as they value their property, and either try to argue how their building is somehow different, or write their value down to that, or somewhere in the middle. And that is going to be pretty painful for all the holders that own, the owners of these assets, but also the banks that loaned money to them. Because I think in many instances, banks will often loan 2/3 of the value, and then 1/3 needs to be in equity. And so if you just say, the value goes down by 40%, the equity, there is no equity. And so that's going to be really painful for both the banks and the equity holders. And I think these set of transactions are going to close because Signature Bank is winding down, and they just want to exit it.
Right.
And so I think it might be the beginning of the sort of the reconciling of all these other assets.
Yeah. So, again, I think this is probably something to watch. I mean, we didn't have 30 bank failures. We had 3 in one cluster. We had a small one in, I think, North Dakota or South Dakota that just failed over the last week. A very small bank just failed. But we didn't have a total capitulation of the space, and so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not this is isolated to this one market, or if it in some way, shape, or form triggers other commercial real estate devaluation, right? That impacts the banking sector. We've been talking about the potential of this happening.
It's not a secret. Everyone knows that the commercial banking sector has loaned to commercial real estate and those loans are probably underwater. There's certainly the asset values are too high, but we don't know when it will change.
Right.
And I think this could be an aspect that triggers that. I don't know that it will be. It kind of depends on the size and what the prices are.
Right. So again, another
Something to watch,
another story to watch. Our third story to watch is that the FTC is continuing to go after healthcare companies as they promised they would. Yeah. This story is specifically around the pharma space and around something called the Orange Book.
Yeah. So there's a lot of pressure on pharma now, and you're right about the FTC approaching healthcare in general to get prices down. People are tired of really high prices. For whatever reason, pharma is in the crosshairs of I think the entire federal government to reduce pricing. And the Orange Book is where you patent a new drug or anything, and if it's healthcare related, the FDA then manages the length of time you have the right to monetize that patent, and it's 20 years. But then if you make a modification to that, they want to encourage ongoing innovation and continuous improvement. So if you make a modification, you can apply to be inserted into this thing called the Orange Book, which gives you another 30 months of exclusivity in the market. And I think for a lot of pharma companies, and honestly, a lot of my portfolio, a lot of every company that has patents, there's a strategy to get the 20 years, but then continuously make improvements and modifications so you build this portfolio and you extend the life of your effective exclusivity. And the FTC is attacking pharma for doing that in a way that is a little bit unclear, like they often do. They're saying that it's immaterial changes that do not relate to the core patent. But they don't really define. I couldn't find. We'll put the actual policy in the show notes, but I couldn't find where they define actually what makes it material or not. But the example they give is the EpiPen. The EpiPen extended their life with a retractable needle. And I don't know if that's material or not, but that was the example they gave that was not appropriate. And whether it is going to stand up in court or not, they're again attacking pharma for keeping prices elevated through this, in their words, anti-competitive tactic of extending patents through the Orange Book.
Yep. So FTC making good on its promise to continue to go after healthcare companies. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. And then quickly, just to cover one more story.
Some good news.
Yeah, in the GLP space, we've been talking a lot about Novo Nordisk because they've been sort of leading the pack. But Eli Lilly had been rumored to have a drug that was pretty far along in the clinical trial process, and they want approval for their drug. It's called Zepbound. List price is going to be $1,060, and it looks like they're going to have a really, really strong drug out there on the market to compete with Wegovy and Ozempic in the diabetes space.
Yeah. I mean, it's another in the same class, which seems to be now taking over at least all the news about pharma and new innovations. But weight gain and weight loss is, impactful to many parts of chronic disease. And so having another choice is probably good. At the $1,000 price, it seems pretty similar to Wegovy and Ozempic, but more choices, I guess, better.
Yeah, more choices is going to equal competition. There's going to be different, ways that people feel from the
there'll
different
be
drugs.
Different side effects.
That's
or
right.
different subtle changes to it.
That's right. Yeah, and we know that whatever they were approved for here, we've already seen the pathway here on how you can expand your applications for these drugs. I would imagine CKD is probably on the roadmap here, somewhere soon. So congratulations to Eli Lilly for being approved to be in the competitive race.
Yeah, they're in the game.
Yeah. So we're going to stop there because we've got a long series of stories on artificial intelligence that we want to cover. But we just wanted to kind of touch on 4 stories that touch on things that we've been talking about over 26 episodes or so. But we're going to take a break here, let Doug share more about Jumpstart Foundry, come back and dig into an incredible week and a half in the AI space.
Thanks, guys, for the opportunity to talk about our pre-seed fund, Jumpstart Foundry. My name is Doug Edwards, CEO of Jumpstart Health Investors, the parent company of Jumpstart Foundry. We're so excited to be able to talk about early stage venture investing, certainly the need for us to change the crazy world of healthcare in the United States. We are spending 20% of our GDP, north of $4 trillion a year on healthcare with suboptimal outcomes. Jumpstart Foundry exists to help us find and identify and invest in innovative companies that are going to make a difference in healthcare in our country. Every year, Jumpstart Foundry invests a fund, raises a fund, and deploys that across 30, 40, 50 assets every year, allowing ease of access for our limited partners to invest to help us make something better in healthcare. Some of the benefits of Jumpstart Foundry is there's no management fees. We deploy all the capital that's raised every year in the fund. We find the best and brightest, typically around single-digit percentage of companies that apply for funding from Jumpstart, and we invest in the most incredible, robust, innovative solutions and founders in the United States. Over the last 9 years, Jumpstart Foundry has invested in nearly 200 early-stage, pre-seed stage companies in the country. Through those most innovative solutions that Jumpstart Foundry invests in, we also provide great returns and a great experience for our limited partners. We partner with AngelList to administer the fund, making that ease of access not only with low minimums, but the ease of investing in venture much better. We all know that healthcare is broken. Everyone deserves better. Come alongside us with Jumpstart Foundry, invest in making the future of healthcare better and make something better in healthcare. Thank you, guys. Now back to the show.
All right. So I remember when ChatGPT launched and I went to YouTube to start finding interviews with Sam Altman because I was like, I've seen this before. I've seen this sort of, dawn of a new technology that's about to change everything. And one of the most important things is to actually pay attention to the person behind it, right? Because you will be stuck with this person. I learned this with Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah. You will be stuck with this person. And so I went to go find some interviews. And I remember finding a Graycroft interview that Reid Hoffman was interviewing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Interviewing Sam Altman. And first of all, it told you everything you need to know about what he was trying to do and where this was going. But also, I remember they were like 30,000 views on it or something. Yeah, nobody was watching it, right? And so this week, 2 days ago, OpenAI had their Dev Day. This is their first Dev Day in San Francisco. So they're, kind of the version of the Apple developer, WWDC.
Yeah. And I just want to note, I got a lot of great feedback from our show last week about our maybe healthy debate about regulation in AI.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is not a follow-up to that, but there's been a ton of news. And so we need to talk about all the changes. I think, certainly the U.S. government's going to keep trying to figure out how to regulate it. They'll either do that well or won't do it well.
Sure.
But we'll keep covering the news because it's going to keep moving incredibly fast, and we need to keep ourselves up to date and keep everyone up to date on it. So the regulation really is a separate issue that we debated. Of course, I'm right, and you were almost right, but we need to cover this news.
That's not what listeners told me, but one thing that is important to bring up though is the timing of that executive order relative to Dev Day happening.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think those are coincidences. Right. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say I don't think the timing of the White House getting out in front of OpenAI Dev Day is a coincidence.
No, and I think Sam was involved in helping the administration understand it.
There's no question.
He's been on record of going to D.C. and talking about it. And then a bunch of this news came out this week, just like other Apple Developer Day or other big developer days. There tends to be like other news that comes out right around that because it's a huge attention around the space. And so everyone tries to get in just in front or consecutive with the big show, which is the OpenAI show. So anyway,
so 2 days later, we've got the YouTube page up here, and the video has 1 million views. I still would say relative to like super trending videos on YouTube, it's trending 45. Okay, so to me, the impact and the importance of what is in this less than 50-minute video, 45 trending is not actually appropriate.
Right.
It's too low.
Well, and the reason we need to talk about it is I think a lot of healthcare experts, a lot of our audience that is really focused on caring for patients, or maybe they're in leadership in a payer or they're an investor, they maybe weren't focused on this. They may not have seen it. They should watch this 45-minute show, and we'll talk about some of the changes, but it is a significant quantum step up in the capabilities and the reach for OpenAI.
It's the first link, at least this year, that I've shared with every single friend group, every WhatsApp group, every Slack group, every group me group, every group I'm in, I felt compelled to share this link with, because if you've been tracking AI and ChatGPT at all, and you watched it from its launch a year ago to the launch of GPT-4, that was 6 months later or whatever.
May or so,
to this, the progress level is unreal that's happening here. This thing is moving so fast. The capabilities that we were just theorizing about, agents and all these other kinds of things, where it is now, the implications are just absolutely mind-blowing. And I think the fact that they are empowering developers and also empowering individuals through very basic user interfaces to do incredibly powerful things with the GPT model and with DALL-E. There's no way in 2024 we don't see real impact as a result of this. There's no way.
No question.
There's no way. We're going to start seeing some economic impact. We're going to start to see some real job shifting, let's just say. It's so powerful already.
So let's just give some people, they should watch it, first of all. But at a high level, improved power and capabilities.
Yep. So
upgraded
the model from GPT-4 to GPT Turbo.
Right.
Advanced the knowledge set from 2021 to April of 2023.
Right. It'll take in 300 pages of text.
Yeah. So literally my book, Create and Orchestrate, is 255 pages.
Yeah.
I can copy and paste the Word doc, drop it in to my user account, which is supposed to be sort of isolated, right?
Yeah,
so it's not supposed to train its model based on what we as users give it, but it should be able to learn my entire book and then basically interact with me
in real time.
In real time.
Yeah.
And then GPTs, which are custom GPTs, so I should be able to then take that and create a Marcus Whitney Create and Orchestrate GPT.
Yes.
Where if you wanted to ask me anything in the context of how I wrote the book around entrepreneurship, the markets, venture capital, I could do that right now.
Yes.
Right now.
Right. So,
and we were why that's mind-blowing is we were talking about that 2 weeks ago, and we're assuming we were going to need all sorts of code and this, that, and the third to do it. And now it's literally point click.
Yeah. So I did it
today.
I did it last night. So I created a GPT myself, and it takes a bunch of my sort of discussions with founders that are recorded because we have this online educational thing called Insight that records a bunch of stuff. And I uploaded it up there, and then you can ask the bot-powered Vic Gatto, and it answers from the context of this 10 hours of stuff that I put in. And so the capabilities are incredibly more. They cut the price
3x for some tokens, 2x for other tokens.
So the price is dramatically cut.
Yes.
And then, as we're talking about, they did these things called GPTs that are tools for individuals.
Yep.
I did it. I'm not a developer at all, and it took me an hour, and most of that time was finding my stuff. It didn't take much time to set it up. I had to find my own stuff because I don't have it organized well. So that's individuals. And they're claiming they're going to have a store, kind of like the app store for these GPTs so that people can navigate to find a GPT that would help them. And the network power of that is going to be incredible. But they didn't stop there. Then they opened up an API for people that can actually develop and build entire systems. And that's going to allow people to stitch things together that are much more powerful than I could do just on the fly.
Along with the outside world.
With the outside world. So,
and third-party applications that also have APIs.
And they gave the example of Zapier, so that they're already connected in with Zapier, which is another API tool that, just for people that don't know, already has connects into every application.
Every SaaS tool is connected via Zapier. Right. Yes.
So as of 2 days ago, they announced all these things.
Yeah, I mean, you can basically code an application that ties together Google Maps and Uber Eats and blah, blah, like all these different things.
By yourself.
By writing English.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And it is super fast and cheap. So there's like a little sandbox where you can test your GPT. Right. So I tested it. I gave it like 2 or 3 questions just to see what it would say.
Yeah.
And you have to pay for that. Right. So I'm like, oh shit, it's going to cost me a lot of money. But I put in $100 and figured, well, at least I'll learn a little bit. And what do you think it cost me to ask 3 questions?
3 cents?
1 penny.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think because they just don't charge less than a penny.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked 3 questions. It charged me a penny.
Yeah. That's why I figured.
And so I have $99.99 left.
Right.
And so all of a sudden I'm like, oh gosh, like I can do a lot more with this. I don't have to be so cautious.
That's right.
The power combined with the really low cost is pretty compelling.
And they have an actual subscription model or a penny model. It's not advertising driven.
Yeah.
Like they're generating real revenue.
Yeah. Now they're spending a lot of money, but they're bringing in a lot of revenue. Who
cares? The business model is not ad driven.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's usage. And there's a huge network advantage, like them being out first with ChatGPT last August 30th. So it's less than a year ago this whole thing started. And now less than a year later, they're launching an app store. The first time I tried to run the sandbox, it wouldn't run because there was too many people on it.
Oh, I remember that.
And then an hour later, well, this was last night, and then later last night. And then an hour later, it ran fine. There's a lot of people doing their GPT things, just like me, playing around. Most of them will be terrible, but there'll be some great ones. That's how the App Store works, right? And then you have the APIs coming in that'll probably be maybe 30 days or so for some developers to turn their attention here and build some stuff. And it's going to be fast. I mean, they're going to gain a lot of market power, more than they have right now, quickly.
Also, they had Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, as like a guest appearance at their dev day. Like he was not the headliner
he got
at
like
all.
3 minutes.
He got like 3 minutes, and it was like, get off stage, Satya. But he was on stage to tell you that Microsoft is building Azure to spec for OpenAI. Right. So basically, don't worry about the scaling because Microsoft's going to throw everything that they can throw at it from a cloud perspective.
And why wouldn't they? Their market cap has gone through the roof because of their association here.
That's right.
And so it is really impressive. I think there are a couple players that can compete, but we'll see if they do. Like Google maybe can compete. Facebook has an open source approach, which is interesting.
Google can compete. Google really has to get their act together.
Yeah.
But they are truly probably the one organization that has the capability to compete, just given the breadth of their Google Cloud, the fact that they've been building GPUs themselves for a long time.
Last week, I think.
That's right. Yeah. You look at AlphaFold. They have the intellectual capability. They have the network power. They have the money. And quite frankly, ChatGPT is a true threat to Google search in a way that nothing has been a threat to Google search in more than 15 years. So
Right.
I think
So
they have
to.
So I think they have the motivation to do it. So I'm envisioning a world of sort of Microsoft and Google going after each other in this AI race. That's what I see.
Yeah, and then the open source, there'll be an open source component to this competition. Facebook has been leading that, but we might transition to Grok. So Elon came out with his. So Twitter, now called X, came out with their own version of an AI model and a chatbot on top of it. The chatbot's called Grok.
Which is based on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Right.
Grok is a term from that.
It means
for
like
understanding everything at a deep
intuition
level.
and empathy with a topic.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's going to be open source, but I don't fully know that. Do you know if it's going to be open source or not?
I didn't read anything about that. I know that he is going to be rolling it out to Twitter premium users first, or X premium users first, whatever you want to call them. And
he's been throwing stones at OpenAI because they're not open anymore.
Well, also he's a co-founder of OpenAI.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, he's got a grudge around what's happening there. So, yeah, I mean, and he's also very focused on making X a super app. He's been talking a lot about setting up X for, streaming music and video.
Yeah, you can supposedly call people on it now.
Right.
And I don't know.
He wants to talk about making it a finance app. Right. So he's just, he's looking at the platform as a distribution platform. And I think he's just going to continue to layer in services, nonstop. But look, I mean, at the end of the day, even though his handling of Twitter, now X, has been pretty laughable in a lot of ways, I just think you always have to take Elon seriously. There are some things that even to this day, even with all of the value destruction he's done on that platform, X is still the best platform for.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, it was election day this week, and I was trying to watch the TV news, and it's pretty painful to watch the news. Now, I'm sort of a centrist, independent, Vic, and I have to bounce around because I can't deal with the news.
I think that's true for everybody. I think everybody, I don't even care if you're on the right or on the left. I think cable news has managed to piss everybody off.
So
honestly.
So X is, I think, the best chance for an independent source. It's noisy and messy, and there's a lot of crazy stuff, but it's independent.
It works for news.
Yeah, right.
It works for news.
Yeah.
Also, it is a real-time data source, and I think his advantage he's positioning
for the AI
is that you are going to be able to leverage the X data set in real time.
He's going to block other AI sources from
using it. Which is part of the AI war, right? It's like what is your training data?
That's right. So I think that's going to be an interesting competitor. Anthropic has raised so much money; they're still going to be there. And then Facebook.
And by the way, we just didn't say Anthropic has raised a lot of money. I think Amazon is
Amazon and Google
are both in Anthropic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think Facebook has an interesting strategy. They basically realized they were behind, in my opinion, and then decided, let's open source what we have and let the crowd work on it. And that's pretty interesting, right? The open source stuff is slow to gain strength, but the crowd of developers across the globe is pretty powerful. So that might be competitive.
I think truly Meta runs ad-driven social media. They are the undisputed winner in that category. And so I think they have a very specific application for AI in terms of the effectiveness of their ads and of serving up content, and their distribution platform is
escape the Apple fight.
That's right.
And position ads that I are more likely to click on.
That's right. I don't think they have to fight with OpenAI and Google in the same way, because the way that they're going to apply AI is very specific to the mechanism that they have. And I think as long as they can keep up with TikTok, they're fine. They have to worry about TikTok and really almost nobody else, right?
Yeah. But the tactic of open sourcing it and like putting it on GitHub means that there will be a credible open source large language model.
Yeah.
Which is healthy, probably.
And also, look, credit to Meta in terms of like open sourcing technology. That's not new to them.
Yeah, they've done that for a long time, and they view it as a way. If it's not proprietary, if we open source it, it'll get the costs down with ad servers or whatever other infrastructure tools.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
So then on that front
of open sourcing,
it was announced 2 days ago, I think. Again, probably because the dev day was coming. This company, O1.ai, based in China, led by, hopefully I'm going to say this right, Kai-Fu Lee. They released their open source model. They offer a large language model that has more parameters. It's open source, more parameters than what Meta released, which is called Llama 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it communicates with you in Chinese and English.
Mm-hmm.
And their startup, which began 8 months ago, is worth $1 billion now to the last fundraising round. And so it's interesting, one, coming out of China, they stockpiled the NVIDIA chips that are needed. And so they have the power that they need. China now has at least seems like a credible play in this space. And they chose to open source it, which is interesting. So anyway, that is also going to contribute to this chaos, to this huge attention, to this huge growth.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, it's worth $1 billion because they can kind of, I mean, first of all, it's a privately held company, so they can manipulate the value to be whatever they want it to be. I think what is interesting is that two things. One, China went through a they basically reversed strategy on their whole capitalism approach.
Right.
They hid Jack Ma away for a while, and the whole world was kind of like, what's going on with Ant Group? What is going on with doing business over there? The VC landscape pretty much split. So now like we have there's a Sequoia in China, but it's not tied to the Sequoia in America anymore. Right. So even the VC stuff is very fragmented now in terms of America and China. Whereas
I don't know how easy it is to get capital in and out.
I don't think it is very easy anymore. And so legitimately we have this AI company that is a competitor to OpenAI. It is open sourcing its technology, and it really is truly not connected to the U.S. in any discernible way.
Right.
So that's I mean, that just shows you why we in America cannot not be in the AI game. I guess that's kind of the ultimate point. We have to be in the game because
the world is not going to
do it. That's right. The world is going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And then I think Shein is going to IPO in the next couple of months, which is a Chinese company.
Yeah,
that
they've turned back on their IPO markets.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so this was insane. This story about the AI influencer with the digital clone.
Yeah. So I think because of the AI startup news, The Guardian came out with this story that influencers, which are people that are on social media and make their living by gathering, people that follow them and then marketing products. It's a thing. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but in the US it's a thing. But in China, it's, I think, a pretty big business. Influencers have cloned themselves, and then they use that clone to do kind of crazy acts on social media that the human wouldn't be able to do. The example The Guardian gave is Chen Yuru in Taiwan live stream footage of himself, but it's his clone, eating chicken feet for 15 hours in a row. And I went in and watched it, and it's in Chinese, so it's hard to tell exactly what he's doing, but he's eating something that looks like French fries, but I guess it's fried chicken feet. But it's not him. It is a deep fake video of him for 15 hours doing what looks like eating chicken feet, but it's a fake. And so that is new to me. I mean, the quality of this and the 15 hours I had not seen before, although I've been sort of expecting it to come. It came much faster than I thought. And so I just got interested in, what is this cloning thing? And what does that mean?
People who heard the debate would not be surprised by that.
Yes.
Because you're all in.
Right.
You're just
That's
leaning right in.
Yeah. I mean, if someone's going to be cloned, I'd like to have a second me. I could be now answering emails while I'm talking to you.
Right.
And so I went and looked, and there's a company in the U.S. called Delphi.
DELPHI.ai.
That will create a clone of you. And they have done a couple so far. They did Steve Jobs. They did Robert Oppenheimer. They have done a couple.
No, but they've done live people.
And they've done live people. So that they have Ilmine, Balaji. So they have several people that have been cloned. And I now have an interview with them tomorrow to learn what it means to clone myself. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, or I'm not comfortable, or I love it, or I'm nervous about it, but I'm going to learn about it tomorrow.
So literally, when you go to the website, its tagline is "clone yourself."
Yeah.
Okay. And then in the bottom, in the lower right fold, creators, coaches, and experts use Delphi to create a digital copy of themselves to talk with their fans 24/7, 365 on any platform. Interact with your audience one-on-one at scale.
Which sounds cool. And honestly, it's not that different than the GPT I just made up last night. It's the video is different.
The video is different.
And the ability to be a fake, like in China, where they're not saying, like my chat on GPT says Vic Gatto bot. It's not pretending to be the real me. And I won't have my clone pretend to be the real me, but people could do all kinds of stuff. And I don't know what that means, but it's going to be a change. So
this company Delphi, in order to prove the capabilities of their AI, they have this app on a website called chat2024.com. And it is basically all the candidates who are running for president in the 2024 election. You can set up a debate, your own debate with them.
Yeah, you can chat directly with them.
Yep.
Or you can have two of them debate each other on whatever topic you want.
Yep. So you just go to Ask the Candidates on the website.
Yeah.
And you can just say, what is your plan for the economy? And then you have a list of different candidates, and let's just click on Robert F. Kennedy.
What does he want to say?
Yeah. And here it is. He's telling us about his multifaceted and he's prioritizing sustainability, equity, and innovation. We need to reevaluate our foreign policy. That's definitely RFK. Strategy in the Middle East has collapsed. So anyway, you can ask all these different candidates,
and it sounds like them,
right?
Like it uses the language and the mannerisms that they use.
Yes, which if you've paid attention to any of these folks, you don't even realize you're used to it, but you are used to it. Yeah. And right away, you can click debate, click on Joe Biden, click on Donald Trump, confirm those candidates, and then ask a question like, what is your plan to address climate change? And they've got stock questions, so you don't have to think of anyone. You can just click it.
Yeah, I had them debate, what would you do to improve U.S. healthcare for U.S. citizens? And they debate it.
Yeah. So anyway, you can just go to chat2024.com and experience this for yourself. This is sort of an example of the cloning capabilities that Delphi is offering from a GPT perspective. But you can see where you overlay that with what happened with the Taiwanese influencer, and we're starting to get into some very, very interesting spaces.
Yeah, and so this is, one, it's a great illustration of the power of their technology. Two, I think it's a pretty reasonable social good. Like, you can easily compare and contrast candidates here and learn. So it's a good demo because it has value, but it also shows how strong they are.
Assuming it's not hallucinating.
Well, this is a way to see, does it hallucinate? And they have these things that claim to be
source material.
I was not able to click through to them, but supposedly there's some way, maybe you have to log in or something, but the references, kind of like footnotes, are there. So anyway, that is cloning. I'll know more next week because I will have my interview. I don't know if maybe I won't pass. We'll see.
So all of this leads us to, well, okay,
what does this mean for healthcare?
What are the implications for healthcare, right? And of course, in AI week, there has to be a healthcare story about this too. So Virtua Health, which is an academic medical center.
Yeah, I think in New Jersey or somewhere in the East Coast.
Modern Healthcare wrote a story about how their chief digital transformation officer, along with the health system, is rolling out AI therapists. And so they are rolling out the Wobot app because they've got a shortage of providers.
Yeah, of course they do. Every health system has a shortage of providers.
Specifically,
in mental health.
Yeah, that's right. Specifically therapists.
But I don't know that it's the right choice to roll out a chatbot. Although we could debate that. Like, it's risky, I think.
When I saw this story, especially in the context of, like, I saw the story after I saw the ChatGPT, demo day, right? The OpenAI demo day. And I was shocked because I've had conversations with multiple people who have talked about wanting to do this, right? Wanting to launch an app, because of the shortage of therapists and how some people will feel more comfortable with an AI than they would with a person in terms of what they might disclose. And all these things are certainly reasonable from a hypothesis perspective, but we are talking about the clinical theater and we are talking about people's actual well-being, and we're talking about very, very experimental technology at this point, right? I mean, I don't think Sam Altman's going to go in front of Congress and say, yes, GPT is ready to be a therapist to people, right? So,
the Wobot app existed before this. This was just the first health system to adopt it.
I know.
Yeah, so there are several.
Listen, I'm not faulting the Wobot app. The health system is the one with the patient panel.
Yes, that's right. And the responsibility to the Hippocratic Oath.
Totally. So this app is called Wobot, WOEBOT. You can go to wobot.health.com and you can see how it works and how they have everything structured. It to me sounds totally crazy. I immediately reached out to someone who I trust very, very much in the behavioral health space. They are a provider and they've been at it for a long time, and shared this with them. And obviously it's a change coming into the space. And so, change should be looked at skeptically, and maybe, the disrupted doesn't feel that comfortable being disrupted. In this case, I think this person was pretty disruption friendly and would be open to expanding access to care to people, and they were like, "Yeah, we're not ready for this. We're not ready for this yet, not yet."
I mean, I've been in therapy. I think you've been in therapy. There is a ton of benefit, and people need assistance, and there's not enough therapists. So, like, I agree with that, but a lot of it is learning to have empathy and understand your own feelings, and sort of the human to human interaction, I think is hard to get out of a chatbot. Now, I would be comfortable. I mean, as I showed last week, and maybe I'm showing by cloning myself, I'm interested in leaning in and learning about this stuff. But I think jumping into Virtua Health, just having 1,000 patients that have mental health issues, by definition, use this, is not the first step. I think there should be like a process where the therapist is, like self-driving cars. We have a human in there as the AI is driving, so there's some safety. We should have it be kind of a more slow rollout so that we can see the effect and learn, because I worry that we don't know what the effect's going to be. And
there's different tiers of acuity when it comes to behavioral health. And so, I'm almost certain that someone who's dealing with psychosis, for example, is not eligible for
Yes,
Wobot,
they
right? I
could
mean,
be, right,
so
yeah.
so it could be that they're saying, listen, we have really, really high acuity patients, and then we have some low acuity patients who, like, maybe we will get to them with the provider, but for the in between times, we're deploying Wobot. Kind of in the same way that you have chronic care management in between, specialist visits or something like that.
Yeah, and I've invested in tools that fit in between in-person visits.
Yeah, right.
So that it's an augment or an addition to the existing care. Maybe
Right.
it even allows the therapist to treat more patients.
Yeah.
You could extend, maybe instead of once a week, maybe every 2 weeks.
And capture some interesting data as well,
capture
right?
data, so the therapist now has more actionable insights to work with. It empowers them.
Yep.
That, I think, makes sense. Just kind of jumping into the deep end of the pool with 1,000 people's lives, even though I'm interested in AI, makes me nervous.
And as a reminder, in June, we talked about the NEDA story, the National Eating Disorder Association story.
Part of the reason I'm nervous is
Right.
in June, we had this story.
Yeah. Back to the Wall Street Journal story. It was called How a Chatbot Went Rogue. And basically, the chatbot misinterpreted what the person's issue was. The person was dealing with an eating disorder, but, it was more of the flavor of anorexia. And the chatbot was trying to give them dieting things for how to get more fit or whatever. I mean, you're messing around.
Context.
No.
And a human understands sort of the emotional state, has empathy, understands the context in a way that it's really hard for the chatbot to do at scale without any mistakes.
And that's actually something that's probably worth talking about, because it's something I've learned as I'm trying to really figure out how to leverage ChatGPT and other GPT-based tools simply to get my work done, right? Like that's my current, working canvas is I got a lot of work I'm trying to get done. I have aspirations for 2024. I have things I'm trying to do. Can this thing actually help me get more work done? Okay,
Yeah.
like that's my not replace an existing human.
Yeah,
literally,
I need to write an 8-page brief in the next 2 days.
Right. And
can it help with that?
Not something I'm going to publish to the world, right, or anything like that. It's an internal document that I'm going to use to work with you and other leaders in the company on stuff. Can it help me with those things? And the thing that I have learned, and we'll see how much this changes with this with the GPT-4 Turbo, but it's so important to feed a ton of context into the GPT.
Yes.
Right? Like a ton of context. And one thing I've learned about ChatGPT I didn't really understand, just because it's not that intuitive in terms of understanding how it works, but it will answer questions about how it works, is your user profile across different chats maintains state, or it maintains awareness about what you have told it about yourself. So I learned this because, like, I told it in a chat, like 3 chats back, that I was a healthcare investor. And then I asked him, like, last night this question, and it brought up, it said, as a healthcare venture capitalist, and I was like, oh, do you remember that I told you that in like 3 chats ago? And it was like, yes, when you tell me something about you, I save it as part of your user profile. And then I was like, that's interesting. Do you train that to the global OpenAI model? And it says, no, anything that you tell me inside of the user profile is just local to your user profile. So anyway, I say all that to say, when someone goes in to engage with a therapy chatbot, I don't know that they know how to necessarily articulate the level of context and depth to get the right answer. I mean, I feel like so much of what my therapy experiences have been, first of all, the person seeing me, and not just listening to me, but seeing me and picking up on body language cues. Right? That where I may be saying something with my body language that my words are not necessarily expressing. And then their ability to intelligently pull out of me the thing that allows us to go into the space to actually start doing the real work. I'm not certain, based on my current level of experience with ChatGPT, which I think is one of the most advanced GPTs out there, that these tools are there to really replicate that kind of therapeutic experience.
I don't think they're there. And furthermore, as I've proven, I'm interested in testing these things, and I'm risk tolerant. And I'm not comfortable giving OpenAI my personal mental health situation, even if they claim they're not going to share it, I don't know that I believe that. And listen, they're a for-profit company whose goal whose responsibility is to the shareholders. I have learned from social media that as I interact with social media, it serves me ads that are attractive to me. And whether that is a benefit or a problem kind of depends on my state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
But all of them are very good at understanding how to get me to click on an ad and buy a thing that I didn't know I needed 15 minutes ago. And the power that we will grant OpenAI or anyone if we start letting them have our entire behavioral health, I'm not comfortable with. Now, I don't think they have the ability to collect that information or understand the empathy and the, as you're saying, the body language and the tone of voice. They don't collect a lot of that information now. But I'm not sure that if they do, that will be good. I think that's too far. And then furthermore, I'm really worried that I can't unplug all my personal data.
Yeah.
I want to be able to pull that out and plug it into Google or plug it into some Chinese open source thing that's global or whatever. And I'll be kind of locked in eventually because they have all this data they've accumulated and the switching costs are just really high to go train Google Bard a whole new thing. That's tiring.
That's right.
And I worry about that. But to answer your question, I don't think that you can be an effective counselor as a chatbot because they won't have the context that a human would have. Now, they're better at other things. So as an adjunct, it could be really helpful at 3 a.m. Maybe my therapist is not available for me to call them right now to also have a chatbot. And then my therapist could look over that and we could talk about what I was discussing in the chat at the next in-person. Like that could be great.
Mm-hmm.
But just going all in makes me super nervous. I don't know how it makes sense for Virtua to do it.
So in summary.
Wrap up all this. How do you stitch that all together?
Well, I think in summary, let's track these last 2 weeks as, 2 of the most important weeks in technology history, I think. And I don't think that's an overstatement. I think from the executive order to all of these AI announcements, AI as a paradigm it's on par with the iPhone as a paradigm shift.
The iPhone and the browser.
That's right. From a technology perspective, it's a once every 15 or 20 year kind of, breakthrough in technology. And we already see it making its way into the clinical theater. Like that, I think that's the part for me is in the same week that we had all of these unbelievable technology announcements, a health system announced that it's rolling it out.
Yeah.
So anyone who thinks like this is not going to
affect me, you're wrong.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong. I'm sorry. You're wrong.
Watch the Dev Day thing tonight. Get on to ChatGPT, set up an account. It's going to cost you a penny and learn about it. And that doesn't mean you should bring it into your practice or your day-to-day work today, but you should figure out where it can help you and where it is too much.
And I remember saying this when we had this was many episodes back, but we were talking about AI, and I was in Aspen. I remember. Yeah. And I'm kind of ending this the same way I ended that episode, which is to say, while I was watching the Dev Day and I'm watching all this stuff, part of what was going on in my head was, God, this is going to be so much effort to change my habits, literally my working habits to work with this thing.
Yeah.
It's just not natural. I mean, part of what I think is going to get people left behind is just there's a emotional aversion to changing the way you work. And I'm just going to tell you, you have to intentionally overcome that, sit down and start banging away on this stuff. Like, you gotta open up I don't care if you gotta make it the browser tab that comes up whenever you open your browser, or
spend 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes
download
a day.
the app and put it on your home screen, set up reminders or whatever. Folks, you got to play with this stuff. I mean, you have to get the visceral understanding of how transformational this is going to be. This is not a fire drill.
So we've named 2 technologies, browsers and iPhone, okay? And depending on your age, you had a parent or a grandparent that didn't understand the internet or didn't understand the iPhone. And the line of delineation between old and doesn't get it and young and going to use this to my advantage in my career is not age-based. It's based on, have you played with it? Do you understand the questions to ask? And do you feel confident that you can listen to a podcast or ask a friend or talk to someone at your lunch hour and feel like you're at least up to speed enough to ask the right questions? And if you're not that, your decision is either decide to be old and let it pass you by. I'm not willing to do that. Or start playing with it. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's a whole new paradigm. It's not easy to understand. And to me, that's the point, because the teenagers and 20-year-olds, they don't have all of this aversion to new stuff because they don't have, I'm 53, they don't have 53 years of using email a certain way. And it reminds me of when the browser came out. I was like a year out of college. And to me, it was fun and great. And to the people I was working with, it was a lot of work and confusing. And why do I want that?
You weren't working, you were playing.
I was playing. I thought it was fun.
Right.
And that's the delineation. I don't think it matters how old you are. It just is having a curiosity or being willing to make mistakes and play around. I mean, it costs a penny. So like, if you put $100 in, you will not spend $100 for the whole time of your experimentation.
Money is not the barrier.
Right.
And time is almost not even time is almost not even the barrier. I think there is an emotional barrier that you have to break through, get over, where you have to sort of face the fact that a lot of the value you've built and a lot of your habits are about to go away. Yeah, they're about to be deprecated.
Yeah,
like, and that look, that's for me. I mean, I told you I'm dusting off my coder hat, and that's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. I haven't done this in a long time, but I am digging back into being a coder because I'm sorry, like I can't not understand what is happening with this. I feel like I can't be a real venture capitalist and not actually understand how this stuff works at the code level.
Yeah.
I have to start understanding how it works at the code level.
I don't think you can be a professional in almost any industry and not at the code level. You have to understand at the user level.
Bare minimum at the user level.
So like I'm
bare
not,
minimum.
Right now, I have tried to set up a dev environment on Amazon, on Google, and I've failed both times. And I've spent a lot more than a penny trying to do that. And not had any success because I just can't get it to work. But I am now excited about, as a user, understanding how these tools can work. And if I can clone myself, I'll learn from that. And whether I actually use the clone or not, there's going to be clones all over the place because it's easy to do. And why wouldn't you want to have 2, 3, 4 clones? And so I think people have to understand that in order to make a decision if they want to do it or not.
I think the most important thing, you know, we're talking about deep fakes and 15 hours of eating chicken feet and all this other kind of stuff. But I think the main thing is you have to understand where we actually are with the technology now, right?
And how fast it's changing.
Yes. If you don't understand those things, it's going to be very hard for you to map where things might go from here, right?
Yes.
And I don't think you can understand the tech if you don't play with it. so unfortunately, I just feel that people have to lean in and figure this stuff out. And specifically, I mean, I played with the first version of Chat GPT, and I was like, okay, it's a fun little toy, blah, blah, blah. But the speed with which this thing is improving, getting more powerful, I've seen this rate of change before.
Yeah.
And I know where this is going. I know where it's going. And
I mean, Netscape and iPhone are the only two examples of this size, and they're both slower than it.
Yeah.
And everyone listening, I think, has a letter or an internal memo or a blog post they did or something that they're proud of that they think sort of talks about a topic well. Learn how to upload that and create, it's called a GPT assistant. Create that, because then you will understand, one, how easy it is, and two, how powerful it is now to have this assistant that's answering in your own voice. Now, how you use it after that, I agree with Marcus completely. That's about like where the technology is going and where your career is today and how it would be best to incorporate. That is each person will decide. But you have to understand like where it is now and how it's changing in order to have any chance to map it to your future. And it's going to change everyone's job.
So
with that,
including our job, our job, Vic.
With that, yes, that's why we're doing this podcast. I think,
that's right.
To force ourselves to read this news and have a discussion about it, because otherwise I get lazy and I would have gone home today. We had a board meeting and I wouldn't have necessarily spent an hour talking through this. And it's good to do that. And then hopefully there's some audience members that will sign up and learn, and they might give us feedback and they'll come along for the ride.
So 2 episodes ago, we worked on 3 themes. I don't think we're going to wait another 23 episodes to add a 4th one.
Yes.
AI being, the transformational force of this decade at a minimum.
Yes.
We need to add it, and we need to be tracking this every show now. I mean, we talked about the Fed for 25 straight shows.
Right.
We got to add an AI component to it, because now all bets are off. I mean, this last 2 weeks has been unbelievable.
And to just end on a more optimistic note, the U.S. has printed so many dollars, and the Fed has so much responsibility to get inflation down, and they're going to hold rates high and bring a lot of challenges to the marketplace. And when I think we're going to go into at least a slight recession, maybe worse than slight, then maybe they'll reduce rates and create more dollars and print more. We have a lot of debt. We have to figure out a way to grow our economy, not at 3%, 2%, 4% a year, but in big chunks. And so I think AI is, like the iPhone, can drive huge efficiency gains across the economy.
Well, look, when you have a health system segment that is completely beleaguered by every angle that you look at it.
Yeah.
We talk about the best of the best being HCA from the for-profit perspective, and they got walloped with the baggage of the Envision JV and having to carry that $50 million
every quarter.
Every quarter, they're dragging on earnings with that. And that's the best of the best with the best payer mix and the best markets and blah blah blah. Like, if you think AI is not going to be on the table as a potential solution to help health systems figure out how to become profitable again. Well, why wouldn't it be?
We need it.
Why wouldn't it be?
We have. We don't have enough. We don't have enough therapists. We don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough people to treat our patients. We have to empower them, not replace them. That's why I disagree with Virtua. But we have to integrate technology tools, whether AI or other ones, so that we can empower the people to do more and have a more rewarding job. Take away all the monotony and hard things with technology, and let them really care for people with empathy, which is what humans are good at.
And I guess the final thing is, because I can't leave on a great note. No. Look, I think it's also really important most people at this point probably have gotten really good at picking out phishing emails and you get those wacky text messages that ask you things, right? And we're all kind of smartened up to those things.
Yeah.
Look, AI is going to take this to another level, folks. Things are going to get really hard to work through once you start adding AI to cybersecurity attacks. Like seriously scary.
Yeah.
Hard to figure out.
Your loved one, say a parent, calls you and says, I need help. I'm in jail. I can't get out. I need bail money. There's no way to know if that is real or a clone.
At the moment.
I thought this was crazy a week ago, okay? But I listened to a ton of podcasts. This guy in a podcast said AI... fraudulent AI, phishing things, you should have a safe word with your loved ones that if it's really them, they say French fries or whatever it is, talk about that verbally in person with them. And then if that voice doesn't say that word, it's a fake because there's no other way to tell. And then the other thing that you and I have already been thinking about, but it's scary, is when we wire money right now, we have like a, two-factor authentication, and it's best in class security. And I don't know that it's good enough if we have these deep fakes. It's just not good enough. And so anyway, maybe that's a good depressing place to end.
No, but look, I mean, we're just trying to help land the plane for people on this.
This, if you have a safe word, it's super easy, right? Like if Rachel calls you and she says whatever the word is, elephant, French fry, anything just like non sequitur that you wouldn't necessarily think of, it's her. And if the person doesn't say that, it's going to sound just like her. And it's not her. And there's no other way to tell, unfortunately, right now, which is crazy. But
go watch the demo day.
Yes.
Go watch the dev day video. And we're not trying to be fear mongers, folks, but it's coming. It's coming.
It's here. It's actually here.
Yep. And we will be tracking it every week, including next week. So thank you for checking in. Like, subscribe, share it with a friend. We are really trying to start growing the listenership. I think we're gonna really focus on growth a lot more next year. This year, we've mostly just been focusing on trying to get good at being on the mic and talking to each other for an hour every single week. But next year is going to be a growth year for us and really trying to get the word out about the podcast. We hope that you're enjoying it if you're listening to it, on even a semi-regular basis.
If you've listened this long, you must like it somewhat.
But if you listen to it every week, and I know some of you do, share it with somebody,
tell a friend.
Send them, especially this episode, because I think this episode has a lot of utility. In the show notes, we're putting all the links to everything we talked about here. So this should be a really valuable episode to share with people so that they can understand what is happening in AI. And tell your healthcare friends, because the Virtua Health story, I don't know that that's getting to everybody.
Yeah,
and it's being deployed in a clinical setting right now. So with that, I will see you all next week.
Right.